Fate actually has a very twisted sense of humor. So these guys kidnapped two brothers who were doctors in the month of January. They go ahead to unalive one of the brothers and then shot the other brother in the leg. And then in the month of February, these same guys are in this doctor's hospital begging him to save the life of their child. Funny, right? Well, here's how the story starts. On January 1st, 2006, New Year's Day, Dr. Abu Babatunde, a house officer at Edo State Teaching Hospital, was returning home with his brother Abu Tahir. And Abu Tahir had just graduated as a medical doctor. As they reached their residence at Ibira camp, gunmen who had been lying ambush struck, and the brothers were forced at gunpoint into a nearby bush. And then these men that took them reached out to the family and started putting out a ransom of 200 million naira. And while the family struggled to raise this impossible mountain of funds, the situation turned from a nightmare to a tragedy. On January 6th, during a search operation by the police and local vigilante, a body was found abandoned by the riverside. When they went ahead to investigate who this body was for, they discovered that this body was Abu Tahir. The brother took Dr. Abu Babatunde. The people who took them had unalived his younger brother and fled deeper into the forest. And they were not alone, they were still clutching to Babatunde. For 2 weeks, Dr. Abu Babatunde was held in the deep forest, and the ransom demand fluctuated from 200 million naira to 40 million naira. Finally, on January 14th, a coordinated rescue mission by local hunters and vigilantes finally reached him. But it wasn't a very clean rescue. During the whole operation, Dr. Babatunde was shot in the leg. He was rescued, yes, but he was so weak that he couldn't walk. He had to be carried for miles through the dense forest, bleeding from a gunshot wound and mourning his younger brother who was supposed to be starting his medical career. Months later, Dr. Babatunde finally recovered and then he's back at work. He's treating patients and going about saving lives like any good doctor will. And then one day, he got a patient, a very, very familiar patient. Now, you see, one thing with being captured and then your eyes are blindfolded is that you begin to use your other senses. Then your sense of smell is heightened. Yes, the sound you hear is heightened, and every other sensory organs in your body is heightened so that you know your surrounding. Now, when he was captured, he was blindfolded, but he remembered vividly the voice of those who had took him. So one fateful day in the hospital, these two men came rushing to the hospital. Their child was probably sick. We're not sure of the exact thing that was wrong with the child, but we know that this child was almost at the brink of death, and these two men were pleading and begging him to save their lives. But once he heard them speak, he paused for a minute because that voice, it sounded so familiar. It sounded like the voice that had haunted him for days and given him nightmares that he still cannot come out from. And after a while of hearing them speak and hearing their intonation, he began to piece two and two together and knew that these were the same guys, the exact two guys that had abducted him, unalived his brother, and shot him in the leg. And he didn't panic when he realized that these were this set of people. He instead gave them a seat, executive chair. He was like, don't worry, sit down, I'll attend to you. He was very composed, and that's actually brave. And then what he did was that he went out and then he placed a call to the vigilantes and the police who had been helping him out with the case. And in a very short while, they surrounded the hospital and then they picked these two guys, arresting them and taking to the station. They've not been tried so far, but I am glad that they are now in police custody. Hopefully, they pay for what they've done. And it just goes ahead to show that fate really has a very funny sense of humor, because these guys, if they had known that they would be needing this person's help in February, I doubt they would have done what they did in January.